What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here. And today is an exciting day as we are making these things more accessible. I want to challenging ways things have been done for a long time without specific reasons and trying to find ways to improve upon the older ways and attempt to make those improvements more accessible so that people at home can waste less coffee, have better coffee, enjoy their experience more, and just overall have a good time. All of these things obviously have to start somewhere. So it starts with lots of data acquisition, lots of questioning, lots of tasting, and then it turns into some sort of direction. I've been on a lot of diatribes lately against the 58mm portafilter. If we look at traditional Italian espresso, where espresso kind of originated, you have 7-gram shots for single shots and 14-gram shots for double shots. Now, if we put 14 grams of coffee into this basket, you're gonna have a bed depth that is minuscule, very short bed depth, which can work with really dark roasted coffees. You can get proper crema, you can get a decent shot of coffee that tastes like burnt coffee. That's true, you can. You put light roast into a 14-gram tiny little bed depth, and you're gonna have an awful experience. You'll have to grind super fine in order for it to not be a gusher. You're gonna get a super bitter and sour experience that's no good. And people over time have realized this, and they've been updosing and updosing until now the standard dose at cafes are about 18 or 19 grams. But even that is still not sufficient for a puck depth. Now, me finding my way to this was based off of me enjoying espresso from smaller diameter portafilters much more than I was with 58. In a 49mm portafilter, nothing special about 49, it's just a lot smaller, 9mm smaller than a 58. A 15-gram dose is equivalent to 21.5 grams in a 58 as regards bed depth. Bed depth is incredibly important for a slew of reasons, but most importantly, the puck of coffee is the #1 filter. And if we don't have much of a filter, you're gonna get a lot worse of a shot, whether it's from things getting through into your cup that are more granular, cell wall fragments and things like that otherwise a deeper bed could filter out, or you're gonna have to grind much finer to get adequate puck resistance in order to get a more traditional style of shot. If you take your 58mm portafilter, you can get incredible coffee if you updose to 26, 27, 28 grams. But that is a ridiculous amount of coffee, especially right now in the current climate where not only is coffee less available because of the coffee crisis that's been going on that I made a video about a month ago, but also with the new implementation of tariffs that are going to cause coffee prices to jump yet again. We need to be very conscientious about how we're using our coffee, and one easy way is to lessen the amount that we're wasting when we're dialing in coffee. Now, you may be someone that says, but I want 28 grams of coffee. That's great. Pull 2 double shots at 15 grams. Dialing in to get one good shot is going to be 13 grams less coffee than if you were to dial in a 28-gram shot. If you dose 18 grams into a 49, even if we don't save money, you're going to get more consistent shots. You'll be able to grind more coarsely, which means a lot less potential channeling and a lot more homogeneous flow. Okay, that's just catching you up on what has been going on this channel for the past 6 or 8 months is an obsession with smaller diameter portafilters, and is something I think a lot of cafes need to be implementing in order to lessen their coffee waste and to provide a better experience with less need to dial in coffee. Gaggia is the one who created pressurized espresso beyond that of steam pressure. He was the first one to create the spring lever group back in 1948 is when it was released. Now, this was not a 58mm portafilter. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 48mm. If we want to say, well, the people who started it knew what they were doing, well, Achille, I think, is a good one to go to. This is Gaggia, named after Achille Gaggia, and they come with 58mm portafilters. But recently, a viewer of mine and a friend of mine, someone that watches the channel, and when they think something that I've kind of shown or whatever is worth it, they make products in order to encapsulate that idea. And this person is Sheldon from S-Works Design out in San Francisco. Now, his stuff is quite expensive, so I don't necessarily recommend everyone go and buy his stuff, but he is kind of on the cutting edge of trying to push forward coffee innovation. He immediately began to make conversion kits for different espresso machines. Though they were mostly commercial machines, which a lot of cafes have begun to implement, which is incredible, he also made one based off of popular demand for the Gaggia Classic Pro. Yes, exciting. Is it going to be cheap? Of course not. He only uses really high quality materials like this aluminum CNC milled plate that you'll have to put on. He also made this CNC machined dispersion plate that replaces the one that comes on the Gaggia. So this one is more so for his 49mm screen. And then of course he has the screen itself, which right off the bat is an immediate upgrade, even if you don't take into account the downsizing, because there's no screw in the middle. You have a more even distribution of water over the puck. With all of this, you can make a switch into your Gaggia Classic Pro very easily. Now, we all understand bed depth is important when we're doing pour-overs, right? We know that a 4-gram V60 is not going to taste good. When they do 40 grams, that's too much bed depth. Well, the same should be applied to espresso, and even more so because we're grinding so finely and relying on the resistance of the puck in order to give us the adequate pressure. You need a much finer grind the more shallow the bed depth is. You need a coarser grind the deeper the bed depth is. With coarser grounds, we know in espresso, it leads to a more even extraction. And this is actually why so many people have found they really enjoy triple shot baskets with like ristretto style shots. They can get robust, thick espresso with coarse grounds with adequate extraction. When you're grinding super finely to where you're almost at Turkish or choking your machine on occasion, it's because you're in this area where it's so volatile that it's difficult to have any type of consistency. I just covered in a recent video this idea of puck integrity. When you have a deeper puck, you also have better puck integrity. And so whenever you have that really lightly roasted Ethiopia shot that's either choked or a gusher, you can actually have a much wider margin of error when you have a deeper puck. So if instead of running out of options at 18 grams in your 58, you put 18 grams in a 49, you'll find that you have multiple settings on your grinder that can pull adequate espresso. And it's because that bed depth is truly a magical thing that's been horribly overlooked. There are options on the market like a 26 or 28 gram VST or a 28 gram Weber basket, which I actually have and have pulled some incredible shots with, but that means a lot more coffee waste. You can also do something like Swerks' little step down basket, which goes from 58 to 49 and it fits in a 58mm portafilter, just like so. And that way you can tamp just on the 49mm part. There's also a current Kickstarter where it's 58 to 46mm. And then I'm chatting with someone else who's about to send me a prototype of a 58 to 40mm step down basket. Or you can do something like this that Swerks has also made, which is kind of a convex basket, so you can get a lot more bed depth and use a 58mm tamper, which yields some pretty nice results. Or you can be absolutely crazy and go for these little guys, which fit in a 49, giving you even more bed depth because of the smaller diameter. Bang, look at that. No, I am not affiliated with S-Works. Yes, I pay for my S-Works stuff, so when you see all these baskets and stuff, I'm paying hundreds of dollars for these, just like you are. I don't get any cut from any of this. You can buy 50 of these. I don't see a dime from it. I hear the anecdote all the time of, oh, I bought this new really lightly roasted coffee. I only got a good shot at the very end of the bag. It took me forever to dial it in. Well, guess what? You would get about 40% more shots with much smaller doses, and you would get a lot higher success rate with a much deeper puck. Let's just go ahead and do a little fun shot using this. I want to pull with, I got two of these convex baskets. One is obviously bigger than the other. Let's do the really big boy bed depth and have some fun with it. All right, we've got our coffee dosed. I have 15 grams in here, ground very coarsely. I mean, 100 microns coarser than even just using a normal 49mm basket, which is here. Because of how small the exit is, you have a lot more back pressure. There's not as much escape as on a normal basket. So you have that affecting it, and the much deeper bed depth is going to cause you to need to grind coarser as well. So this is very coarse for espresso. This is not necessarily what I recommend, but it's a fun little meme. So here we go. So it should come out immediately pretty quickly, and then it will slow down after I have a blooming phase. If anyone wants to dispute Fine's migration, I mean, look at that. So it's coming out kind of slowly, but it should speed up once more once it begins to kind of disintegrate a bit. Here it comes. There we go. And look at that beauty. Now this is a really lightly roasted Gaggia from Sebastian Ramirez, roasted by Mame and Zurich. We're gonna do just a 1 to 2. Okay. And there you have it. From super coarse grounds. Crazy aromatic. Because you're grinding coarser, you're able to retain a lot of those volatiles. They're not as muddled. And when I say retain, you're probably not retaining any more than others, but you're not getting as many negative volatiles that can overcloud, I guess, the ones that you kind of want. The more floral ones, the sweeter ones, the more fruity ones. And that's fantastic. That's a very good, it tastes, it's not as, obviously it's a much lighter body than something like espresso would be, because we're going so coarse and we have such a deep bed depth with this curious little basket, but it is tasty nonetheless. In fact, Ugo, you want to try some? Look at that. Look at that cutie. You can tell just by looking at this how coarse those grounds are. It was not holding a fingerprint, I'll tell you that. So we have our little cutesy puck right there, and that is deep as heck. We have this 58mm portafilter. Look how much deeper it is than even the full basket itself. I mean, that's crazy. Granted, this is a traditional 14-gram basket, so that is what we're going with. Okay, look at that. Crazy. This is obviously the bigger convex, so it has a deeper bed depth completely, but even still, there's more head space in this one, so it's a little different. This is super well built and should last just as long as your machine lasts, because the only thing that is not super high quality built and will last forever is the gasket in there, which you can buy online. These are the same gaskets you can buy online, or you can get it from S-Works themselves. And again, I'm sure there are going to be other manufacturers making similar solutions, because I do believe this is one of the ways to go forward with less coffee waste and better tasting coffee. That's what customers deserve. That's what we deserve. That's what the producers deserve, to have their coffee shine in the best light. And at 58, when people are not willing to go with much bigger doses, you're simply not getting as good of coffee. But anyway, if you enjoyed what you watched, please consider hitting like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon down below where we do some fun stuff. And until next time, you know, I'm just going to enjoy my little tart right here. And well, I hope that you brew something tasty today. Cheers. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that?